The Week with Ben Ellis.
This is Switch.
Thousands of Solihull families will suffer real misery as a result of public sector pay freeze, which was announced this week. That's according to the trade union UNISON. David Williams, the branch secretary for Solihull at UNISON, joins me on the line right now. Mr. Williams, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hi.
I'm good, thank you. Yes, so the Chancellor Rishi Sunak had his spending review, and it hasn't gone down well with the public sector.
Certainly not. I mean, I think it's a bit of a kick in the teeth, to be honest.
Yes. So just for our listeners, outline what the issues are as far as UNISON are concerned.
Well, my members in Solihull have really put themselves out and supported the community during the coronavirus pandemic. They're still out there doing it. And people are coming out and clapping for the care workers, clapping for the key workers. And now they're being offered a 0% pay increase. I think that's a real slap in the face for everyone. It shows you what the Conservatives really think about the key workers in local government.
In the spending review on Wednesday, the Chancellor Rishi Sunak, who I'm quoting here, said, in the 6 months to September, private sector wages fell by nearly 1% compared to last year. Over the same period, public sector wages rose by nearly 4%. And unlike workers in the private sector who had lost jobs, been furloughed, seen wages cut and hours reduced, the public sector has not. He said that proposals would target the resources at those who need it most. On the face of it, that's reasonable, isn't it?
Well, I'm sad to hear about the loss of earnings of people in the private sector, and some of my members work in private nursing homes and places like that. But that's no reason for actually attacking the living standards of public sector workers. I mean, it's not one or the other. I think, that's the wrong way of looking at it. What you have is hundreds and thousands of quite low-paid workers in the public sector who've done a lot, who are working hard for their communities. And now they're saying, no, we're not going to give you a pay increase this year. I don't think that's fair at all.
I found it interesting as well. And you kind of read between the lines when politicians speak and they make their voices heard and what have you. And you look for the little subplots. When Rishi Sunak said going into the pay freeze that there would in no way be any kind of austerity inflicted on the public by the government, but then announced that there's going to be a public sector pay freeze for up to 3 years. Now, to me, a public sector pay freeze is an austere policy.
Yeah, we've been through this. I've been a branch secretary for 8 years now, and I've been involved in the union for longer than that. And we've been facing austerity since 2009. We're still trying to recover from that several years on. And now they're talking about another 3-year pay freeze. I think that's just ridiculous. What's happening is that people are facing real poverty on the wages that they're earning. Okay, we're talking about a small pay increase for people at the bottom, but there's lots of people who are trying to raise families, who are trying to pay their bills, who are trying to live a decent life, and they're not earning the money that they need to be able to do that.
There has, though, in recent times, and I know this from personal experience, been the threshold of income tax has gone up a little bit in recent time. That helps, surely.
Yeah, I think it does a bit. I mean, it helps the millionaires as well as the people on the 12,000 a year. But yes, it does help a little bit. What I do think, though, is that if we're going to find ways to pay for services in the future, we have to make sure that people who are earning quite a bit at the moment are actually paying their fair share, and they're not actually penalising the people who are only just earning enough to just about pay a bit of PAYE. I don't think it's fair. I think there should be a real pay increase to the people who are doing a key job and keeping the whole country together.
Do you find it interesting, David, that for the last 6 months, as Rishi Sunak says, we've had unprecedented borrowing in this country to be able to tackle COVID-19. And as I say, on the face of it, that's quite understandable. But if you go back 10 years, when the coalition government, which was led by the Conservative Party, came in, they had to tackle the deficit. It was austerity across the board, and we had to level things up. We're borrowing more now than the Labour government previously ever did, although for reasons that we understand would be acceptable to some people, because we've got to keep people who are affected by the causes of the lockdown. Does this not fly in the face of 10 years of absolute misery that a lot of people suffered from 2010 onwards? Because Rishi Sunak says there's not going to be any austerity from here on in, but for many people, the austerity of the David Cameron years has never gone away.
Well, I quite agree, and I think the Conservatives try to pretend that they're a new government. They've been in power for 10 years, and the one consistent policy that they've had throughout those 10 years is protecting the rich and making sure that the poor pay for the costs of any public sector borrowing requirement they need to have. I mean, I know, 0% pay increase, which is what we're talking about today, that's worth hundreds of pounds a year for somebody like a nursery nurse or somebody who's working in a care home. That's going to make a big difference every month to whether they can pay their bills or not, or do all the basics of living a decent life.
And as far as the trade union movement goes, I mean, are you in contact with the PCS, for example, the Public and Commercial Sectors Union? Are they agreeing with your feelings on this as well?
I haven't personally, but I know that I'm sure there'll be broad agreement across the union movement that this is a step too far. And I hope the members will, be prepared to come out and support some kind of industrial action, if that's what it takes, in order to be able to get the pay increase that they deserve. I mean, there's a danger that people will feel cowed and that people will feel defeated, but the unions have a role in actually bringing people together to make them realise how powerful they are and how they can actually make a difference.
Yeah, and it's very much on the front line, not just public service, but also the private sector as well. On the front line, where we are as a nation going to recover from this once, if the vaccine is successful and that begins to be rolled out, it's not going to be the sunny uplands from day one, is it? It's going to be a slow process, and that's going to be taken by people on the front line at the coalface. Any other kind of cliche you want to think of, but that's where it's going to happen, isn't it?
Well, yes, and as I mentioned earlier, lots of my members are in the private sector. They work in private nursing homes. They'll be the ones trying to keep elderly and vulnerable people alive and free from COVID-19. They're the ones who'll be actually delivering the vaccines. I did want to mention the great work that's been done by the health and safety and public health service workers in the council. And they've been doing a great job over the last 9 months in pulling together and keeping the schools open, providing advice and helping. It's that sort of work that's going on by local government workers that's making a real difference. And as I say, it's a kick in the teeth to say it's a 0% pay increase.
A time of national crisis, which this has been for pretty much the whole of 2020, you wouldn't, as a union and similar unions yourselves, you wouldn't envision any kind of industrial action to get what you believe you want. I mean, is the nation under too much of a strain to cope with that?
I understand that, and no union wants to go on strike. It's a painful business. You lose money, it's difficult, and you're not providing the service that you're in life to do. Social workers want to protect vulnerable children, and care workers want to protect the elderly. Nobody wants to withdraw their labour in such an important situation. Bin workers don't want to withdraw their labour if they can help it either. It's a painful business, but sometimes, to change the subject, that's where the employers need to recognise the importance of the work that's been done by care workers and by council employees over the last 9 months. And that's where you'd have expected them to have said, it's okay, we're going to protect your living standards. We're not going to make sure you pay for it again like we did 10 years ago.
David Williams, Branch Secretary for Solihull Unison, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For more great videos from the week, make sure you subscribe to our channel. It's down here somewhere. And don't forget, you can catch us on the radio every Sunday between 12 and 2 on FM across Birmingham, 107.5, on mobile, on DAB and online. We're made for Birmingham. This is Switch Radio.